everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Just Get Hired podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Fiesta George, and you're tuning in to our special Spill the Sauce series where we're diving into the spicy secrets and tips from all around the recruiting world. Today, you're in for a treat and a truly magical guest. Joining us today is none other than Marie Ablaza. She is the fairy job mother herself. She has a wand in one hand and a gaming controller in the other. Marie has cast her recruitment spells at top companies like Netflix Games, Ubisoft, Lucasfilms. She's a recruitment Jedi, a passionate storyteller, and an advocate for candidates pursuing their dream jobs in the entertainment and gaming industry. Marie, it's a pleasure to have you on the Just Get Hired podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. That was such a great introduction. Probably the best introduction I've ever had. So thank you for that. Yeah. I love it. You're going to have to send that blurb to me because I want to put that on my profile now.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I want to dive in. We're going to turn up the heat. We're playing on this Spill the Sauce, hot sauce theme throughout this whole episode. So I think we're in for a lot of fun. Are you ready?
Yes, for sure. I was gonna say I actually have the hot sauces, like the box that they use for the show. So
okay,
if you ever need me to bring that out, let me know. I got
there you go. All right, so you call yourself the fairy job mother. If you could sprinkle some magic fairy dust to instantly solve one recruiting challenge, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. One recruiting challenge. I would love to have recruiters actually really be part of the decision-making process when it comes to recruitment processes at whole, right? Like whether that be, hey, we're going to make a change to the ATS, right? It's always someone else who's not been in recruiting that makes that decision. And then recruiters have to integrate it, implement it, use it. And it's like, wait, I would have loved to have vetted that first. So something like that, or even when we make, bigger company changes that affect talent acquisition, I would love if recruiters who are actually on the ground floor doing that work could be asked to speak on it, ask for their opinions, because I think there is definitely a hierarchy. We see that in every company, that decisions get made at the top, but the people who are actually going to be doing those changes are the recruiters who are the boots on the ground. So I would love to sprinkle magic there to hopefully bring and elevate that, but bringing the people who are actually going to be doing that work just to weigh in.
I love that because you are right. Whenever decisions are made about an ATS or a new technology, it's the people who are in operations or whoever signs the checkbooks. They're like, well, yeah, I think that makes sense. But they don't even include us in those conversations. Fortunately, for my role that I'm in, I kind of make myself as a part of those decisions because I've seen it too many times where we invest in technology that doesn't even work, or it looks good from the surface, but no one really tested it out. And then we're stuck in a contract for 2 years and we can't get out of it. So
testing part, I think, is so important, and I feel is missing, because it's once it's rolled out and we're using it, it's does it have this feature? It's oh yeah, it does, but we turned it off because they never had a recruiter actually look at it and tell them hey, that's something we should toggle on.
Well, you are currently building the dream team for Netflix Games. What's it like to recruit for such an iconic brand? How do you ensure that you have the perfect fit?
Yeah, it's been really, really fun. I will say one of the best places I've ever worked. I love that Netflix is really invested in games and they're taking it seriously. What is it? That's very much in Netflix's culture, that, hey, when they take big swings, they really invest their time and efforts to make sure that it's successful. They don't just get into something and wonder oh, is this going to work or not? But they really want to make sure that, they have everything in place to ensure that it could be successful. And so I love that because me and my team, I feel we definitely feel the backing of Netflix. Hey, we want games to succeed. We want that to come to fruition and work out. And that's really great. And especially coming from a big company, right? Like that is really motivating that your company has your back, in building something completely new. And when it comes to ensuring, the right fit, I think going back to the culture, like Netflix has always been kind of the case study of like the culture that we have. Their culture deck is public and it's there for everyone to read and see. And like that's really what is practiced here. I get a lot of questions from candidates like, is that real or is that what you want it to be? And I'm like, no, the culture is real. Like that is how we actually operate. And I really feel like that really helps us to ensure like the right fit. Those are questions that I even ask in my recruiting screen is like, let's talk about the culture deck. What are things you like about it? What are things you don't like about it? What are actually things you might change if you were here as an employee? And really having that dialogue. And that's always really cool to see because it really comes to light like the type of person that I could be possibly hiring in. But they also know upfront like, hey, I'm not wishy-washy on the type of people that would do well here. It's like it's right there on paper and we're just now discussing it.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't looked at that, I glanced at it maybe like a year or two ago. I feel like it's the gold standard when it comes to explaining the culture. And I wish more companies would be that transparent about what to expect when you come to work for the company. So if you haven't yet, it's like you said, it's free. You can look it up online. Just how lucky you are to get to work in such an environment.
Thank you. It's been really, really fun.
Well, what are some hot tips you can give candidates who are looking to break into, say, like the entertainment industry or the gaming industry, since you've been involved in recruiting for so long for those fields? Any spicy tips that you can offer to our candidates?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. In terms of spicy tips, I feel like these are tips that, probably have lost its flavor, but is still so true today. But I really, really like continue to push, networking. Like that really is a huge part of the entertainment and the games industry. I know some people probably like, oh, I'm so tired of hearing that you need to know someone. But I feel like these industries are actually really small. Like when you really think about, other industries, elsewhere, like games and entertainment still are very small in its field. And really feeling that like networking is the ideal thing to do if you're ever looking to break in. Like that's really what I push. Because it's true. Like it's not like to network to find a job, but it is to network to know people and really understand like why this industry is the way that it is. It really is more about like networking to learn, to gain understanding. Because I think just from me recruiting in these industries for so long, there's just such an evolution that happens on the inside of these industries. The industries are small, entertainment and gaming, they're very, very small. And so I think that, networking and building a group of people as you navigate trying to get into the industry is really the way to go. I will say both industries are obviously evolving really fast. The technology is changing fast, as well as games, like how they're developed, how they're played, where they're played, all that stuff like is also changing. So if you're looking to like make these things, like actually develop games or like, make films or whatever, like being on the front end of like the changing technology and just the evolution of like how these things are made is really going to be core to getting into the industry. Because I think right now we're seeing that the industry waits for no one. Like you're either like you're in it and you know what it is, or you're left behind, even if the technology is only like a year old, right? I really tell people like, yeah, like really be up to date on what's trends, what's emerging in terms of how things are just being made. Because that's really how I think you get sped up in terms of like your own skill sets and things like that. Networking and then just being, on top of my, what's changing in the industries.
So as they say, have your people call my people.
Yeah, exactly.
It is about who you know, though. I preach networking all the time because it's your way in the door. Like even if they don't get you the job, but at least knowing and having that connection always seems to help no matter what industry you're in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because that's really what it's all about. Like, I think you're right. Networking is just your foot in the door. And once you're in the room, you can navigate the room now, right? Because now you're
Right.
like, oh, if I really want to be a producer, then it's like I'm already in the room. So now I just got to find producers. Or if I want to do games marketing, so I just have to navigate and find games marketing people. But that really is like the hardest part, is getting that foot into the door. But I think, but it is like removing a little bit of that mentality of like, oh, I'm networking to get a job. It's like, no, you're getting into the room, you're getting into the industry, you're getting to talk to people whose job that you want to possibly have one day, or might be working in tangent with the job that you want one day. And it's really just like building that understanding, and also like using your network to help you grow, right? Like when I talk about like skill sets and, evolving technologies or whatever it is, there's people who are in the industry who are taking that on right now. And the best way to learn about it and like really get like the, front row view of that is to like know people who can speak to you about it. Right. So,
well, now everyone knows Marie.
There we go. Now I'm here.
With people who are like, I think I heard you on this podcast. And
right.
Can you be my foot in the door?
Right. Exactly.
Well, when you're interviewing candidates, what are some of those red flags that make you kind of cautious?
Red flags. I would say one of them definitely is just like lack of preparation, especially when it comes to like the role or the company, right? Like my world is very unique because Netflix has games and not many people know that Netflix has games. Right. And so when I talk to people and they, like, oh yeah, I'm interested, but like, oh, I didn't know Netflix already had games. It just takes that extra Google search, like Netflix games. And like the first link is literally like all 90, 100 games that we already have on the platform. And so it's things like that where it's like, you could easily Google it. It's not like you're taking like, 3 hours to prepare, but it's just like, what are some additional things that you can bring into the conversation? Netflix always has some kind of news, right? Your talent acquisition folks are always the first to be like, how is this going to impact my conversation with a candidate? But on the other end, candidates are very much like in tune with that too. If you see news about Netflix games or like what's happening at Google or Disney's, like you can use that too to be very up to date with what's going on with that company. And it just shows that recruiter like, wow, like you're actually following, right? Like you're actually staying up to date with those things. And so I would say that's definitely a big red flag. And it's like something that seems very obvious. So I would say like, just doing some prep work, like even if it's just like 10 minutes to just look up like, hey, what's actually going on with that company? Is there any, anything new I should be aware of? You show up a lot more elevated in those interviews.
So one of the tips that I also give to candidates is if you are like really pursuing a company, set a Google alert. Just, put in quotes that company name or the people that are interviewing you. And then anytime, especially if there might be some, days or weeks between your next interview, if any new news comes up, Google's going to send you an alert and they're going to link it to all of the things that you can find about that company, that person, that industry. So I always tell people that's just a quick way. You don't even have to think about it. It's delivered in your inbox.
Yes.
So I'm with you on that. So we're going to have fun on this gaming theme since you're talking about games. If you could be a character in any video game, which one would it be and what role would you play?
Ooh, so like an existing character or just my own character?
I'm sure you have your own persona somewhere.
Oh, totally. I mean, like you brought it up in the intro. Like I've got a magic wand in one hand and a game controller in another. If anyone's seen my my website, I have, I'm fairy job mother, so I'm a little fairy character, but I have a lightsaber and a wand in one hand. Like I would love if somebody like took that character and like put it in a video game, but I would want it to be like, she looks really cute, but she's like super badass, right? Like I want it to be like complete opposite of like what you see. I guess like one character that comes to mind is, so in the Borderlands game, there's a character called Tiny Tina. And I remember like when you first see Tiny Tina, you're like, oh, she's just like this little girl in this game, but she's like sadistic. Like she's like insane. She blows things up. She's really crazy, but I love her character because like when you see her, oh, it's just like this little girl, but she's about blowing things up and doing, shenanigans. So I love that type of like juxtaposition of they're cute, but they're also badass. So I would want my character to be something like that. It's a cute little fairy, but like she could like, blow shit up,
Exactly.
I would love that to be like a character for me one day.
Okay, well, I'd love to be on your team. We are small and mighty, but don't mess with us.
Right? Exactly.
All right, so rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Spill the sauce, quick answers only. Okay. What is your go-to interview question?
My go-to interview question is pick something on your resume that is most relevant to the job you're interviewing for.
Okay, like that.
Yes.
What about on a scale of mild to extra hot? Playing on this,
I like it.
Theme. How would you rate the current job market for the gaming industry today?
Extra hot. It's extra hot right now. I could definitely speak more about that too.
Okay. Well, then let's continue with that. What are some of the hottest jobs like on your list today?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's just like hottest jobs. I think when you think about the market, like we've had some insane layoffs. I think since last year, there's been 30,000 layoffs in just the games industry alone.
Wow.
And so, so when I say like how spicy the market is, it's that, because it's like, it's a weird, I guess, like going back to like juxtapositions, like it's a weird thing that like you have all these layoffs, but you also see the trend that gaming is just growing. Right? We're just showing like there's more people playing games, there's more people buying games, there's more people spending time with games in comparison to like watching, TV or watching movies or watching Netflix or whatever it is. There's definitely this uptrend that people are spending time and money and effort, in games. But the industry from a workforce perspective is like, it's sad. It's really, really sad. Like there's been 30,000, layoffs, and it's just going. Like studios are even closing, right? Like it's not just getting people laid off, but like studios that we've known for many years, like they're just shutting down completely. So I would say like that's why it's such a spicy thing, because it's like why is there such a weird difference between the industry itself growing but the workforce is like, shrinking. I think a lot about how like in 2020, right, in the pandemic, a lot more people were at home, so a lot more people were playing games, right? And so I know that was an anomaly in itself. So now that we're in 2024, is it course correcting itself? What are businesses doing? As recruiters, like we definitely think about what is actually happening and what is this trend. But in terms of like hot jobs, right, like all those jobs are still being recruited for, right? Like there's still people who are making games, developing games, writing games, like marketing them. The technology like are moving so quickly that like we need game engineers, technical directors, these people who can get us on the forefront of this evolving technology. Game engineers are probably the hardest to recruit for. Like they're the most like sought after. It's such an important job that if they're already somewhere, like it's hard to kind of lift them up and like make them go somewhere else. Or if they're on the market for like a hot second and they're gone because people are like, I'm picking them up. Like we need to like bring them in.
I think that's a definite career people should explore if you're listening and you're maybe in school and trying to figure out like, what do I want to do with my life? That seems like a very hot job and a hot industry to be in. So if you are looking for a quick win after you finish your schooling, I think you'd be a hot commodity.
Yeah. And those things could all transfer too, right? Like if you've worked in engineering and games, like I could just work in engineering in general, right? That skill set is just so niche.
As a very job mother, what's one piece of wisdom that you like to share with candidates?
I would say have fun. Like, I think that's something that, when we think about job searching, even recruiting or being a candidate, it's a grind, right? And I feel like the grind nowadays has been glamorized in a way where it's like, oh my gosh, people are just like burnt out. It's tiring, it's stressful. And it's true. Like, those things all are valid. As recruiters, I really do love this job, and I know other recruiters love this job. We love what we get to do. And I really do see like the positive side of it, that, all of this can be fun. Right. And I say that because I've worked in games, or like I work in entertainment. Like, I see a level of like fun and fantasy and magic and all of that. But I really do feel like there is an element of fun as you're exploring. And I think there's fun in the people you get to meet and the things that you get to learn, industries that you get to explore, and just the connections you get to have, right? Like, it's like, you and I are both in different industries, yet we've connected over just like whatever bond that we have on LinkedIn or outside of LinkedIn, right? But like, that is what makes my job fun. It's like, not even because I'm a recruiter, but it's like, I just love being able to connect with other people in that job search, and really find the fun in just like connecting and building community with people.
Well, what's any other exciting projects for you? Where can other people find you?
Well, I'm definitely on LinkedIn, so find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there. I like to tell people I run my mouth on LinkedIn, so if you don't like to see all my posts, make sure to mute me, but I do like to post often. And I post a lot about different things, so like recruiting advice, as well as games industry stuff. I post a lot about like Netflix games, just exciting news that's coming out of our studio. And so if you want to hear about any of that stuff, you can find me on LinkedIn. And then I do have a website, and it's more of just like my own like passion project, as well as just helping job seekers out there. It's free. That's one thing I like to say. Like, all my content on there is free. It's just straight from the heart. I know job searching and navigating the market right now is hard. And so it's just kind of my gift to people of like, I know there's a lot of people who ask my help and I just don't have the bandwidth. So I send them my website to be like, hey, like, I literally have like a career FAQ. I have a blog that answers all types of questions on interview etiquette, how to navigate the job market, how to network, self-advocacy, things like that. Like, it's kind of like a hodgepodge of things. In case, people need to just find like something that they're looking for. So so they can find me there as well. And that's it. I'm not on any other social media other than those two things.
And social media is a job in itself, but I'll make sure we link up your LinkedIn, your website as well.
Yes.
Send some of your people over to me. That's why I do what I do. I don't ask any money for this. This is free advice that I'm giving. Yeah. I don't have the bandwidth to be a career coach, so to speak. So this is my gift to you as just someone who is curious about the job market today and what it takes to get noticed, get promoted, get hired. So we are pioneers in that aspect. And I love what you're doing, but thank you so much for an incredible conversation and sharing your magical insights and spilling the sauce on the world of recruitment in the gaming industry. It's been an absolute blast to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And well, you're welcome to come back anytime, and hopefully we can even continue this conversation, because there's a lot more that we can definitely talk about. But I appreciate everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Just Get Hired podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow us on social media. You can follow me at Just Get Hired. Follow Marie. We'll link it up in the show notes. If you want some updates, behind the scenes content, I am now on Instagram and TikTok. I fell into the trap. But thank you, and a shout out to the sponsor of this series, The Spicy Gnome. Visit thespicygnome.com for amazing hot sauce deals that are sure to add a little kick to your life and to your career. Don't forget to subscribe to the Just Get Hired podcast on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And then until next time, keep the passion burning and stay spicy. Bye.